So, here I was thinking my life was all on track, regardless, thinking my life was on track, even after becoming a convicted drug felon and also being newly diagnosed HIV positive and homeless. My case manager at the time did me an application for housing with an organization that does vouchers for people living with HIV and AIDS. My application was approved and I was put on their waiting list. Now, I know it seems like, yay, she got her voucher. Oh, it was not that easy. The waiting list was a 2 to 6 year turnaround before my name would come off the list. So in the interim, my children and myself were placed in a transitional housing program until my name would come up off the voucher. The good thing about the time frame was that it gave me the time to put back into my sons and myself from me being recently incarcerated for 5 months. I just remember my unit. The walls were all white, hardwood floors, and the smell of fresh paint. And the best thing of it all was it was ours. We didn't have to share it with no one. No one didn't have to tell us to shut the door, cut the light off, you running up my light bill. We could come and go as we wanted to. The transitional program also had support groups and professional development classes. And so I started attending the classes and trying to put myself back together. Um, while attending the support group one night, I saw a flyer where there was an organization hiring ex-felons to do HIV counseling within the community. So I applied, I became the trainee, and I became employed with the organization. Now, here I am, housed temporarily, working full-time. Now, my unit wasn't the ideal unit as the building had an infestation of mice. Now, can you imagine getting up, going to the bathroom, and quickly peeking over at your 6 to 7 month old just to make sure they're okay, only to find mice in the crib with her? That was my reality. Moving forward, I received a letter a couple of weeks later stating that we had to move by February because the housing program lost its funding. Here I was lost, didn't know which way to turn, who to turn to, as I cried. After I had my pity party, I got up and I asked my case manager, and I really didn't ask her, I kind of told her that I needed to know the who, what, when, and why, and how did they expect us to find housing on such a short notice. They didn't want to tell us what was really going on. They didn't want to take accountability for their actions, for them losing the funding, for us not to be housed there anymore. So I did the next best thing. I took the letter, and on the letter, I called the Department of Health who wrote the letter, and I called, I emailed, I stalked. I would tell anybody who would listen to me about what was going on. And at this time, the district was somewhat under scrutiny due to the services being provided to individuals living with HIV and AIDS. And I believe their report card at the time was an F for the city. Department of Health started doing a series of town halls. These series of town halls were about housing and different ways to come up with ways to find stable housing. So I took the opportunity to go to every town hall meeting, and every time I got the microphone, I asked the same question. Why do we have to move? So still no replies, still no answers, no game plan, nobody's talking to me. At this point, I feel like I'm being ignored. So I do the next best thing. I now make my son, who is 8, stand up at the microphone and ask them, why do people like us got to keep moving? The look on their face, they were stunned, because for one, they didn't know how to answer it in a way that he could probably understand it. Secondly, they didn't answer the question anyway. They just basically explained that the city had a big issue with housing and that the city was trying to come up with a plan to get everyone stably housed. Same old that I had been hearing for months. So I continued to look for units that I could afford. which was hard due to I couldn't afford DC market rent. Plus, I also was a convicted felon, so nobody wanted to rent to me because of my previous charges. I continued to look and pursue. I did so many characterization letters just trying to prove and beg to individuals just to give me a second chance. Well, about a couple of months later, the Department of Health called us and told us that we would get our permanent supportive housing vouchers. I was not excited. See, even though now I had the income to get a place to stay permanently, my background still held me back. So I still went through the process of trying to prove myself to the point that I now had to put my search into finding a private owner who would kind of listen to me and try to give me another chance. And luckily, one person gave me that chance. And ever since that chance, I have taken my chance. I have kicked in doors to get services and things that me and my kids need. Today, I am a case manager, and I share my story to share my lemons so that it may help someone else down the line. Thank you.